In this unit, 2.1.3, we are going to take a look at how to construct and read bar graphs and histograms, and we're going to do that by using this frequency table that we generated back in the last section, 2.1.2. First up, let's take a look at how to construct a bar graph. I'm going to start here with a vertical axis, and on that axis I'm going to put the frequency. Now, on the horizontal axis, let's see how we're going to do this. Look at the classes here. We're going to go 1 to 12, 13 to 24. So what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 classes. So I'm going to have 5 bars. So I'm going to start this like this. I will draw a horizontal axis, and I'm going to draw it kind of long because I want it to be easily to be read. I'm going to put my class limits here. Now the first class goes where? From where to where? 1 to 12, all right? So I'm going to mark that here. Maybe this is a 1, and this goes up to 12, all right? So this is definitely not to scale. There's my first class. You know what? I'm even going to make this a little bit bigger here. There's my first class, 1 to 12. Then I've got a gap, and then I'm going to go 13 up to, I'm trying to make this the same length, so it looks the same length, up to 24. So let's see, does that length look about that length? Yeah, okay. So we're doing this by hand, but keep in mind, we're not going to draw these by hand, right? We have machines and software packages that do this for us. But this will show us, give us a good idea of how to read these things. All right, 1 to 12, a gap. 13 to 24, a gap. Next class goes 25 to 36, so same width. Okay, then a gap. Then we go 37 to kind of the same width, 48. Then a gap, 49 up to 60. And I've tried to make these bases the same width. I kind of missed it a little bit, but that's the idea. Now, frequencies. Here's how I'm going to do this. I'm going to look in the frequencies. The biggest frequency I have here is 13. So how about if I did this? If I go up to the top here and I make that a 15, then halfway down, right, so if I go halfway down, I'd get to, what, about 7.5. Okay, now I see I've got an 8 here. So here's halfway. So what if I came up a little bit and made that, you know what, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this halfway, 15 easily divided by, what if I did this? 15, 10, 5. Okay, kind of evenly spread. Now look at this first class. The first class comes up to 6. So I'm going to draw a bar from here, my low end point to my high end point. I'm going to come up to about 6, right? Just get it close as you can in this hand-drawn graph. So we're going to go up to maybe 6. Then I've got a gap, 13 to 24. Now 13 to 24, we've got 10 pieces of data in there, right? And this one here, we're going to put that up to 10. All right, so let's do that. So this is going to go up to 10. And then the next bar is going to go 25 to 36. And we have 5 pieces of data in that class. So this is going to go up to 5, a little bit below that 6, over to 36. 37 to 49, that goes up to 13. All right, so 13, well, that's maybe about the 15. Then I'll come over here to the 48, and then the 49 to 60, we've got 8 pieces. So 8 is, let me kind of get this here. Maybe that's like 8. All right, so I'm going to come up to 8, sort of there. Okay. There's my bar graph. And what I might even want to do is this. I might just want to put the midpoints there. So the midpoints, if I did that, this would be 6.5, not necessary, 18.5, 30.5, 42.5, 54.5. This is our bar graph. Now, we'll go on to a different graph. But while we're here, I just want to put something into your heads. We'll use this later when we get to the normal distribution. And you don't have to remember it now, but when we get there, it will come back to you. Look at the area here. What's the area of each one of these rectangles? So I want to take a look at the area of, say, that rectangle. Well, I know this, that the area of a rectangle is the base times the height. Now, the base in this case is what? The base is from 1 to 12. Remember, that's our class width. That's the width of that base. So that's 12 units. Each base has a width, a length of 12 units. So this is going to be 12 in the first case. So okay, this is rectangle 1. 12 times, now what was the height here? Well, the height was the frequency. That was 6. All right, so 12 times 6, 72 square units. All right, now somehow we are going to play with this 72 units, and that's going to be very important to us later. Can you get the, while we're here, can you get the last one? What's the area of this one right here? So that's rectangle what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So can you get that one? What is the area for rectangle 5? That area would be 12, right? The same width times, what do you get here? What's the height? 8. All right, so that's 12 times 8. Oh, let's get it to right here. I think that is 96 square units. All right, this will be real important to us when we get to the normal distribution. All right, but anyway, here is our basic bar graph. Let's go on to a histogram. This is our bar graph. You remember from the last bit of work we did. This is our bar graph. Now, here's what we want to do. These bars, you can see there's a gap between them. And what I want to do is pull those bars so that they're right next to each other. Let me see if I can do this here. Here's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to take this histogram, just enlarge it a little bit. And what I want to do is I want to pull these bars so they're right next to each other. And I'm just going to split the difference. So I'm going to, like on this part right here, I'll add a, what do I have, a 1 unit split here, a 1 unit gap. So I'll add a half, subtract a half. Over here, a 1 unit gap, add a half, subtract a half. So that's our class boundaries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring those rectangles together by plotting, instead of the class limits, the class boundaries. So let's construct this. I will draw my vertical axis of the frequencies. We'll draw our horizontal axis. Now this is not class limits this time. This is going to be class boundaries. All right, so what I'm going to do, remember the class boundaries, you subtract a half and go up a half. So this is going to be 0.5, that's a point, 0.5 up to 12.5. Now, right, now remember what happens here. You're at where? You're at 12 and you go up a half. So you get 12.5. And then over here, you're at 13, but you go back a half. So it brings you to 12.5. So it brings those two things together. Well, I want that. All right, so here's the first class. Then 12.5 up to, all right, so what's the next one? I'm up here at the top. 24 and add a half, that's our boundary, so that's 24.5. Then the next boundary is 36.5. Then 48.5. And then 60.5. Now, those are the class boundaries. Here's the vertical axis, frequencies. Remember we went up to 15, then a third would be 10, a third would be 5. So what in this first class, this went up to, you know what, I need to put those numbers in so I can remember them. All right, so I just popped that frequency table in, and what do we have for that first class? All right, so I'm looking down here at my first class. First class, well, there's the boundaries, right? That's our boundaries. First class had what? 6. Okay. So now I remember we had 6 pieces of data in that first class. So we'll come up here. Oh, almost got it. And in the second class, all right, now the second class, I'm up here at the top right, there's 10. All right, so we're going to just start it right here. Come up to 10, bring it over and down. Then we had third class, 5 pieces of data. All right, third class, I'm up here at the top right. Third class, we had 5 pieces of data. So I'm down here now. Third class, I can just come right up to here and go to 5. All right, so it's going to come right off that right edge of that second class, and we'll have 5 over there. I missed it. And then we're up at, what, 13. So I'll come up to 13, a little bit below 15, maybe there. I'm missing these. And then 8. Okay, so 8. I can start it at a little bit below 10 and come over here. Okay, so this is called a histogram. Let's construct one more graph while we're right on this page. This is an ogive. Now an ogive, what we're going to do is still have a vertical and horizontal axis. And in the horizontal axis, we're going to put our boundaries again. So it's going to be, did it again, 0.5, 12.5, 24.5, 36.5, 48.5, and 60.5. Now what an ogive does, it keeps track for you of the cumulative frequencies. All right, so right now, imagine yourself, okay, actually, let's put the cumulative frequencies in here. What have we got? We've got 42 pieces of data. So we've got 42 pieces of data. So what if I ran this cumulative frequency axis like this? 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. All right, now, imagine doing this. You start here at your very first class, at that lower limit. So let me take you up to the table. You put yourself in that lower limit place, and you look at how much data you've encountered. Well, right now I'm at the very left. I'm at the very left here. I have encountered no data. As I'm down here, as I start here, I'm just starting. I haven't encountered any data yet, so I'm at 0. So I'm going to put a mark, a point at 0. Now, as you run through this interval, as you start here and run through that interval, you're encountering data. And how much have you encountered? Well, how much data is in this class right here? 6 pieces of data. Or over here, we've accumulated 6 pieces of data. So let's go up right here. When we get done with that class, we're up at 6. So it's just somewhat below 10. So I'm going to estimate it maybe here. And I'll connect with a line. Now, go through that second class. When you're right here, and now you're moving through this class, you've encountered what? Well, you've encountered 10 pieces of data more, right? 10 additional pieces, giving you a total of 16 pieces of data. So by the time I get to 24.5, I'm at 16. So I'm going to come down 24.5 and go up to 16. Right, so let's put a point here at 16, estimating it again. Okay, and I'll put a line there. And then I'm going to pass from here through this interval. Now, as I pass through that third interval, I accumulate 5 more pieces of data, giving me a total of 21. I've accumulated 21 pieces of data. So I'll come over to the 36, and I'll go up to 21. Put a point there, 21, see if I can get that, kind of like that. And then what? Then we're at 34, so come over to this point right here. Now, when I'm over here, I've accumulated 34 pieces of data. So let's go up to that 34. Maybe that's like right here. Ooh, it popped up kind of quickly there. And then in that last interval here, that last class, we've encountered 8 pieces of data, bringing us up to the total of 42 pieces of data. So at that 60.5, I'm going to come up to 42 as best I can. All right, so as best I can, I'll be here at 42. Maybe it's here. Okay, that's it. So what it does, it just tells me how fast things are accumulating. So this is called an ogive. So just so you can maybe read it from another example. What if you had an ogive that did like this? What does that tell you about how you're accumulating the data? Well, what it says is that as you go through your data, you accumulate the low values very quickly, and then as you get the higher values, it kind of levels off. You're not, as you get to the higher values of your data, there's not too many of them out there. Whereas, what if you had an ogive that looked like this? What this says is that if you go through your data values, there's not too many low values, but then suddenly you get a lot of high values, right? You accumulate a high values right near the end. Okay, so what we've covered now are bar graphs, histograms, and ogives.